We started connected curriculum as a way of supporting academia to help it understand these challenges and to help it basically produce learners who were better prepared to hit the ground running in industry.
Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. And now your host, Niall Sullivan.
Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Trend Detection Podcast. We're going on a slightly different track today. I'm really excited to speak to my Siemens colleague, Steve Jones, because we're talking about a really cool program. It's called Connected Curriculum, and I won't sort of go into the details. I'll let Steve sort of explain. But it's a really cool collaboration between sort of Siemens and industry and academia. And Senseye is actually involved as well, and we're going to dive into that a little bit today. But I guess first of all, welcome Steve to the podcast, and maybe if you just sort of introduce yourself and a little bit of background about Connected Curriculum would be a great starting point.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Niall. So yeah, my name's Steve Jones. I'm the Connected Curriculum lead here at Siemens. So if I start maybe just by explaining a little bit about connected curriculum and why we do it and what our strategic ambitions are through connected curriculum. If we look at the challenges for industry, I think was our starting point, and there has been a huge technical revolution in industry over the past few years, and Industry 4.0 has made a huge change in industry and really opening up opportunity for industry to address the massive global challenges that it faces. We were very mindful that in order for industry to address these challenges, one of its key problems is actually having skilled workforce who are capable and able to use the technology. So skills is a huge issue for industry. And really, we started connected curriculum as a way of supporting academia to help it understand these challenges and to help it basically produce learners who were better prepared to hit the ground running in industry. And obviously, academia already do a fantastic job, but it is a real challenge for academia to keep up to date and to really sort of keep abreast of the industrial aspects of what's happening, and that's really what connected curriculum is about. So we've been doing it. Connected curriculum has been around for just over 5 years now, so quite a mature initiative. And we have over 20 academic partners who partner with us on connected curriculum. So it's been a very successful initiative and quite a mature one, and continues to grow.
No, fantastic. I mean, when I first heard about it, it's brilliant, and it sort of follows on from a podcast. Because I know Brian Holiday is obviously a key supporter, but follows on. I did a podcast recording with him, as you know, and we talked a lot about that collaboration. That Siemens can't solve it all. You know, if we talk about ourselves as an example, so bringing in academia as well is also a great way to sort of initiate that collaboration.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, and Brian is, as you say, that the senior stakeholder really here. Without Brian's backing, connected curriculum would never have happened in the first place, and he continues to be a real supporter of it. And he's very mindful of the challenges that industry and academia face, and the conclusion really was that no side was going to solve this problem on its own, and it really needs senior leaders in industry and academia to work closely together to help try and bridge this challenge and to better prepare learners for the industry of tomorrow.
Yeah, so I mentioned in the intro about Senseye's involvement. So maybe Steve, you could provide a little bit of background on how did that sort of come about, and sort of what's happening in sort of the early stages of the project, and what Senseye brings to the table.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a whole raft of technologies that we cover through connected curriculum, and anything that Siemens implements, and its real leading edge technologies are always a real interest for us, because those are the aspects that academia struggles with most. Obviously, the real current things are developing quickly. It's hard for them to keep abreast of that and to gain access to those technologies. The whole topic of AI is a big one for Brian, and he's a real champion of AI. And it has the opportunity, I think, over the next few years is going to have a huge impact across lots of different areas of industry. And Brian's very mindful of that. It's had a huge impact so far in the sort of world of IT and the commercial world, and the next impact obviously is in industrial space, and there's a great opportunity for that going forward. So Senseye as an AI driven tool, it's one of those ones that's really important that we try and introduce to academia and to support them to understand that, being one of our leading edge technologies, and the great opportunity that provides to industry in terms of predictive maintenance and really sort of driving forward and driving down costs and helping to improve operational efficiency in industry. So Brian was really keen that we explored this tool and that we integrated it into our portfolio and tried to help our academic colleagues understand what Siemens were doing with Senseye and to help bridge that gap.
Yeah, and maybe we go into that a little bit more detail. So introducing it to academic colleagues. So what was sort of the process for doing that? How do you sort of begin to introduce a tool like Senseye or some of the other technologies to the table?
Yeah, I mean it's a real challenge because this is new ground, and we're very lucky with Connected Curriculum. I work very closely with our academic partners, and some of those partners are even seconded into work with me. So I have academics from some of our Connected Curriculum partners, some of our academic partners who were seconded into Siemens to work alongside me. And that's a great opportunity because there's a real skill in understanding the technology, but then turning that and explaining that in an academic context, which is different than a training one. So it's been great to have academic colleagues alongside me and supporting us to help paint that picture and to really create resources and that sort of explain that whole backdrop ready for an academic audience. So it's been great working with them, and there are a number of university partners that we've been working with, and three of those leading ones were two of our core partners who've been with us since the start, which is Manchester Metropolitan University and the University of Sheffield. They've been partnering with us in helping us build this the storyline and prepare it for academia, alongside one of our newest partners, which was City St George's University of London, who've only just recently joined us. But academics from all three of those have been really helpful in preparing the content and getting that ready for an academic audience as well as an industrial audience.
And how do you you mentioned those three examples there, but how does sort of the academia side get involved in projects like this? Is it sort of from the Siemens side, or is it from the other side, or is it sort of meeting in the middle a little bit as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real collaboration, the whole Connected Curriculum, and we have every other month we hold like online webinars and online forums where we communicate with our Connected Curriculum partners, and we explain to them what is happening with Siemens and what's happening with our technologies, and at the same time they will profile back to us what their students are doing, what curriculum developments they've done. And it really came from some of those discussions, and Jordan at Senseye gave an overview of the Senseye technologies to our academic partners in one of these workshops, and there was significant interest in that technology, and I'm really keen to explore that further about how our academic partners could take advantage of that. And it was through one of those calls then that the three colleagues that I mentioned before, Manchester Metropolitan University, University of Sheffield, and City St George's, academics from them said, yeah, come on, we'd like to do something with this. And then through the backing of the Senseye team, we've brought that on, bringing that to fruition really in terms of the partnership. And what we'll do with it is slightly different than you may expect. We do an initiative which we call Connected Curriculum Live. So our main focus through Connected Curriculum is a train-the-trainer model. So normally we are preparing materials and preparing resources and providing access to our technologies for academic staff at these institutions, and they use those resources and the training and the licenses and the technology then to explain to their students. So normally it's a trainer model. We don't normally directly interface with students, but through Connected Curriculum Live we do something slightly different, is where we directly integrate and interact with students. So engineers at Siemens support us, and we do live calls with students, and we take them on a bit of a journey, and that's what we are implementing with Senseye, and that's what we're preparing at the moment, is one of these Connected Curriculum Live sessions. So we will remotely, through Teams, guide a group of students and explain to them the whole sort of backdrop and the industrial story behind AI, and then we will demonstrate to them how the tools are used, and then we will give them direct access on that call to these technologies. So obviously it's cloud-based, and that means that we can do it remotely. And so those students will get both the storyline and an exposure and real experience, hands-on experience of using Senseye during these calls. So quite a unique way of doing it, really, and it's only because the technology is virtual, and through digitalization, obviously, that means we can do these things from anywhere in the world, and that gives us the opportunity to really give learners that practical experience as well as the academic theory and the background to what's happened here. We can give them direct exposure to that. And obviously that's really great, because as well as the students then picking up these skills and getting real hands-on experience, also the academics who join that call and are part of that Connected Curriculum Live experience also get some real hands-on exposure to these tools, and it builds their confidence and therefore the confidence of them to implement it practically with their own learners going forward. So quite an innovative little initiative, Connected Curriculum Live, which is one of the features that we do through Connected Curriculum.
Yeah, but it's fantastic. So it's funny. So I was just looking at sort of a list of, some of the topics we wanted to cover today, and one of the questions about the challenges of getting students engaged in predictive maintenance and AI. But it sounds like through Connected Curriculum Live, you're sort of solving that challenge. But are there other sort of challenges, to getting people to continue to engage on the project?
Yeah, there are lots of challenges which we seek to overcome, and one of those is it's relatively easy. Well, it's achievable to give institutions access to industrial technologies, but what is a bit harder is to give them access to industrial data, because what you will no doubt understand is lots of these industrial and commercial partners don't readily give away their industrial data, because there's huge sensitivity and value in that. And that does create us a little bit of a problem, because obviously if we want to give them exposure to the tools, we really need to give them the data at the same time, but this data is protected. So it's quite hard for us to do that. We can do that because we have obviously our own partners, our internal partners like Congleton, who use Senseye and have benefited from that technology, and obviously our own source of data. What we'll do in the short term is that we'll use synthetic data on these initiatives with those learners, so they gain experience exactly how it's used, but using data which has been synthetically generated. And then what we'll do in the next phase is we will connect and use data from their own hardware platforms. So our Connected Curriculum partners all have access to something called the Festo Cyber Physical Lab, which is like a mini industrial manufacturing cell. And because it's an academic application and an academic infrastructure, it means that the data, and there's no issues regarding IP, intellectual property rights or anything, or any sensitivities in that data. So we'll use synthetic data in the first instance, and then going forward we'll use data live and real data, but actually from an educational piece of equipment rather than an industrial line. The concepts are exactly the same, obviously the same challenges and the same relevance of data, but it just means that we can circumvent any restrictions in terms of the actual source of that data, any IP challenges that they may face otherwise. So yeah, in terms of the data side and the practicalities of that, there are challenges, and that's how we overcome them. Looking more at the sort of people side of things, it is really hard. Curriculum change is very, very difficult, and institutions spend years building up their curriculum, and it's quite hard to change that, and it's quite hard for academics to change their curriculum, and it really takes a leap of faith to bring in new technologies into a curriculum that's being delivered at a university or a college, because there's a lot of effort that goes into that, and understandably, academic partners may be slightly hesitant and feel exposed when they bring in new technologies that they may not have had the industrial exposure to. So there's a lot of support and that we need to provide to really drive through that curriculum change and to be able to integrate new technologies into their delivery.
That's a really interesting point, Steve, about the changing curriculum, because it sounds like you're with so many different topics to cover. I guess it's almost like convincing, or maybe pushing the sort of benefits of this. But does having because we all know how big AI and Gen AI is at the moment, did that make the conversation a lot easier to go, look, we've got this great AI tool doing all this cool stuff? But was it almost like you had to do a bit of selling, let's say, of the topic?
Yeah, in a way, our academic partners, they do a brilliant job, and there's no greater challenge than, I think, sort of, education is a huge challenge. It's a bottomless pit of creativity, education. I don't think they needed so much, it's selling to them, because they're really keen. They want to do it. They want to engage with industry. They want to bring in new technologies. But I think it's just understanding the huge challenge that they face when they try to do that. And that's obviously what connected curriculum is all about. It's about supporting academic partners, as well as giving them access to the tools, because we provide academic licenses, we provide training, but it's also partnering with them and giving them that support to be able to do it practically. As I mentioned before, the sort of Connected Curriculum Live initiative will lay the foundations for them to then to take that and pick that up and run with it themselves. But I think it's very easy to underestimate how much effort it takes for academics to be able to incorporate the latest industrial technologies into their curriculum, and the real sorts of personal risk in some respects that they take when they do that. And so, that can only happen, I think, if industry is willing to support them with that endeavour, and to help minimise that risk, and the Connected Curriculum Live about our engineers really to sort of showing them and getting stuck in and doing some delivery with them in a time efficient mode of delivery like we can do now, is really an important part of that. The other aspect that we do to try and sort of build confidence and to build understanding in academia is student projects, and that's always a great way of introducing a technology into an academic institution. It doesn't just have to be through the academics that these technologies are brought in. So there are lots of challenges, I think, that it might not be immediately apparent externally from an industrial point of view, that academics that they face when they're trying to drive through curriculum change.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned about sort of hands-on experience, and you mentioned Congleton, of course, on one of our manufacturing sites. But is there, would the introducing some of the students to Congleton, is that part of the maybe part of the program, or is it a way for them to maybe learn more about it in a production environment, that some of these tools, or is that not something you sort of look at?
Yeah, I mean, we use Congleton quite often as an exemplar of how these tools have been deployed. I mean, if you look at the challenges Congleton, the manufacturer drives at Congleton in the UK, that's a huge challenge for any manufacturer. Any kind of electronics manufacturer in the UK is just a huge challenge. And we quite often cite them as an exemplar, because the only way that Congleton have managed to maintain their position, one of the global leaders within Siemens in manufacturing context, is through utilising and leveraging technology, namely digitalisation, to be able to enable them to make their drives more efficient and to be able to make them more flexible. And Siemens have used its own technologies at Congleton to be at the forefront of their game. And that's a great story, which we quite often cite in connected curriculum about the way that they continue to deploy technologies to drive their own business forward. And they're such a great team. I'm sure you'll agree that they do a fantastic job, and it's great to have them within our portfolio and to be able to say, look, this is how they're deploying these technologies in a manufacturing context within Siemens' own business.
No, exactly. There's no better showcase really to say, we're not just, selling or marketing these products. We're also using them, to run our own sort of factory as well. And the fact you can show it in real life, let's say, you can't see my inverted because you can't see me, but you're showing technology in real life. It's not just because you can talk about AI and Gen AI or whatever in wonderful terms, but people want to see the real thing, don't they, basically?
Yeah, totally agree.
And I think you've summarised it very well, Steve, about what the outcomes of the program. Of course, I completely understand why students would be very keen to work for Siemens, but actually, it's about them gaining skills and knowledge for the future to take away wherever their sort of career takes them in the future. But what specifically, I guess, what skills and experience would you like students to take away from the program into their future lives and career?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bit that I always explain to learners is having exposure to industrial tool sets just makes such a difference when it comes to recruitment. If I think anyone who's ever recruited, particularly in a technical field, often you're looking for those phrases and those buzzwords and those items of technology that you want people to have exposure to. And when anyone who's applying for a job with me, for instance, it mentions Siemens tool sets and exposure to those, then immediately it promotes my interest. And I think that's true of most people who are recruiting. They're looking for learners who've got some exposure to industrial tool sets, and when learners have got that, I think it really does give them the advantage over other learners who may be equally as academically bright, but don't have any exposure to industrial tool sets. And that from a recruitment perspective, having those skills, even if it's just a beginning understanding of exposure to those skills, I think it is really important. One thing that we are doing through connected curriculum, and I explained earlier on, our ambition really is to support skills in industry. That's what we're trying to do, is better prepare learners for the industry of tomorrow by giving them those industrial skill sets. So working with academia to help better prepare those learners. And what we're doing next through connected curriculum, and what we started last year, was to try and really build a talent pipeline. So we did it last year for the first year. We set up a competition with our connected curriculum partners, and that was for any students at our connected curriculum partners to submit a project using Siemens technologies. And then we took all of those competition entries and the shortlisted entries from that, the shortlisted learners in that competition, we profiled those at Transform. And you may have well seen the I think it was Workforce for the Future was the title of the stand, and we were part of that on connected curriculum. And we had about 20-30 students on that stand over the course of those 2 days presenting their projects to our industrial customers. So they were talking about the projects they've done using Siemens technologies. We're repeating that again this year, and the whole point of that initiative really is to create a talent pipeline from our academic partners through connected curriculum into our industrial customers. And we're leveraging both of those. And overall, what we seek to do is to leverage the convening power of Siemens to bring those two parties together and to create that talent pipeline, because really that's a total win-win for everyone. It's a win for the academic institution, it's a win for the learner, it's a win for the company that then gains access to great talent from our connected curriculum partners with exposure to Siemens technologies. And obviously it's a win for Siemens in the middle there, bringing these two parties together. So that's what we're doing next, and we're repeating this again this year. We've launched the competition again this academic year, an event happening on the 3rd of July 2025 later this year, where we will be profiling those shortlisted candidates to our industrial customers. So we're going to hold a big skills summit on the 3rd of July in the morning, and our academic partners will be coming to that along with their students. And in the afternoon, we'll be inviting our industrial customers to that, and our industrial partners to that event, and they will come along and meet those great candidates from those from our academic partners, and get to meet them and hear of the great projects that they've done using Siemens technologies. So we're trying to build that talent pipeline through this initiative. So it really is the sort of like the real culmination, the sort of like the fruits of our labours really is being able to gain those students some great careers in industry, and help industry to get the skills that it so badly requires.
Yeah, that's fantastic, really. Because I know, and again, I guess the way you just ended the question there, it's what the industry requires. So there's a lot of demand for new skills, and we talk about it a lot in this podcast about people leaving businesses, manufacturing businesses, and the skills going with them and stuff. And like you said, that pipeline is just so important. So initiatives like this are very, very important for that. So yeah, really, really great.
Great. I'm glad you think so.
Nice. It's really fantastic. And but I guess as we sort of come towards the end of our chat, Steve, so you've talked a little bit about what's coming up next, but is the program evolving further in terms of further than that? Even are there other plans that you could share with us? Because it's obviously on a great trajectory at the moment. But is there anything else in the future you see where this program's going?
Well, I think the next few years really is continuing to expand. We already have 20 partners, and that will grow again this year. We're taking on some new academic partners into connected curriculum, and we will continue to grow and continue to support as many institutions as we can through the initiative. And as I mentioned before, the success really of the talent pipeline is really the sort of like the fruits of our labours, and building that and making that effective, and really creating careers and destinations for those learners. That's our academic partners, I think, will be the bit that will be is the next opportunity. We only did it last year for the first year, so this year will be the only our second year when we're really trying to establish that and to really upscale that. I think we've got some big plans in terms of if we can how far we can scale that. The good thing about it is that what we're trying to do is not only just service our big industrial customers and our partners, but also the SMEs that really struggle to gain profile, because unlike Siemens, who gets a huge pull when it puts out an opportunity like an advert for a role, our SME partners, who can be absolutely fantastic, really great companies, great careers, great technology, but they can often really struggle to gain profile for these career opportunities. And through the initiative that we're running, this talent pipeline, it's a way of leveling that playing field, of giving them access and giving them exposure and setting up links with academia to be able to gain that talent pipeline and really give them a higher profile from a recruitment point of view than they would gain normally. So it's the initiative we see as continuing to grow over the next few years, and who knows where we'll be in the next few years in terms of number of partners, and continuing to bring on board more and more technologies, and to support academia with the challenges from an industrial viewpoint as much as we can.
No, all sounds very exciting. And of course, I should probably say, we were just talking before we started recording about, that we're going to have sort of future podcasts when we bring sort of academia in, students potentially, to, get their viewpoint as well. So I think there'll definitely be some follow up there. But I guess just to finish, Steve, if these different parties, if anyone's interested in taking part or learning more about connected curriculum, and where should they go to sort of find out that information?
Yeah, well, we have a landing page. If you literally type Siemens Connected Curriculum into Google, it will take you to our landing page on the Siemens website, and there it will give you further information about what's involved in connected curriculum. It will show our current partners and some of the activities that we've recently done, but there's also a contact form there. So if you're in an academic institution and you would like to find out more about connected curriculum, or even consider maybe joining us, if you go to that web page and explore that, and then click on the contact me page and fill in that form, and then someone will contact you. But all the information about connected curriculum is held there.
Fantastic. And actually, to make that process a little bit easier, we'll put the link to the web page in the show notes as well, so people can access it there directly too. But yeah, for today, I think that's a really great conversation. Such a fantastic initiative. I know I've said it a few times already, but it is really great. And and like I said, the fruits of the labour, the events coming up sound very exciting, and we'll hopefully be able to follow that journey with future episodes as well. But for now, I guess thank you, Steve, for your time and taking us through this cool topic. And thank you everyone out there for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels, and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.